After weeks of contentious negotiations, Lufthansa's bid for bailout money is finally taking off. That's after the German airline's largest shareholder, billionaire Heinz Hermann Thiel, said he would not oppose a taxpayer-funded rescue. It would dilute his holdings but save the company from collapse.
Wir haben kein Geld mehr.
We have run out of money. To this day we live on the reserves we set aside during the good years. But soon we will have used most of it. Without support, bankruptcy looms in the next few days.
The bailout was approved by shareholders at their annual meeting on Thursday. It would give the airline $10 billion from state coffers to help the company survive the COVID-19 pandemic. In exchange, Berlin would get a 20% stake in Europe's second largest carrier. The government plans to sell its stake within 6 years or draw up the company's restructuring.
The state's stake serves only to stabilize Lufthansa. The state's quickest possible withdrawal, once stabilization has been achieved, is part of our common business basis.
In another lift to its prospects, Lufthansa also reached a deal with its cabin crew union that would save the firm $560 million. The agreement would freeze wages for 22,000 employees but prevent layoffs. Meanwhile, 16,000 kilometers away in Sydney, Qantas announced it's axing 6,000 workers and grounding 100 aircraft for a year. It cited the coronavirus-induced collapse in global travel.
Many of the 6,000 job losses we've announced today are people who have spent decades here. They're people we know personally. They are people that we know for a long time.
The International Air Transport Association expects the world's airlines to lose $84 billion this year. And the group says that unless the pandemic is controlled in the next few months, the biggest crisis in the industry's history could get even worse. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, for more, let's go to aviation industry analyst Heinrich Grossbongardt in Hamburg. Welcome back to the program, Heinrich. Now, as we heard there, this massive $10 billion bailout for Lufthansa does have strings attached, including the German government acquiring a 20% stake in the airline. Is this a good deal for Lufthansa?
I think it is a good deal for Lufthansa because it helps the airline to survive. However, the deal is quite expensive. Most of the money is loan with a fairly high interest rate.
Okay, now Lufthansa obviously is now in a position, or soon will be in a position, to spend some of this bailout money. How should the airline do this? So what should they be spending their money on in order to ensure its longer-term survival?
Yeah, Lufthansa needs to keep most of its fleet because in 2 years or so, traffic will bounce back, and Lufthansa will desperately need this money to revive its network and to be able to survive the competition with the low-cost carriers like Wizz Air and Ryanair in Europe.
Now, before this pandemic, can you just describe for us what financial position was Lufthansa in? Was it doing well before this crisis?
Lufthansa's financial position was superb. Lufthansa had excellent operating revenue and a strong balance sheet with lots of assets. Lufthansa owns almost all of their fleet of 600 aircraft. Lufthansa has valuable subsidiaries like Lufthansa Technik, their MRO arm, who is very profitable. And of course, within the group, Swiss Air, which is also very valuable. So Lufthansa had a strong balance sheet, but it was not enough to survive the crisis on its own.
Okay, now as we know, other airlines haven't been so lucky. They haven't had the luxury of a government bailout, including Qantas, which has announced that it'll be axing 6,000 jobs from the Australian carrier. I'm wondering, at what point do you think will the industry turn around and perhaps have some of these jobs return to these carriers?
I think it's very crucial when we will have a vaccine. because a vaccine will help people start traveling again. Until we don't have it, many people will be reluctant. We won't see traffic go back to the level we had in 2019 before the crisis.
And what's your view on government bailouts more generally? Do governments need to step in order to save airlines?
In a crisis like this, governments have to step in, because an airline is not just a business. It's like, imagine Turkish Airlines would go out of business. That would be terrible for the Turkish economy, and the same is true for Germany. German economy without Lufthansa and a strong export nation, that is something which is would be unbelievable and would be devastating for our entire economy.
Okay, Heinrich Grossbongardt in Hamburg, thank you again for joining us on the program.